Hey everyone, it's Justin here, Voices for Voices. Thank you for joining us, watching, listening in the United States, across the world. If you can give us a thumbs up, like, follow, subscribe, share, repost. If you can follow our social media, and if you can reach out to 25 or maybe 100 your contacts in your phone, let them know about the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast that we're representing mental health, mental challenges, trauma, recovery, and that spans a lot of things. Um, One of those areas is autism. And so we are right smack dab in Autism Awareness Month. I think that uh, I think that every day should be that there shouldn't be as many holidays and months, and I think it should just we should just treat each other like humans should treat each other kindly. And so you've seen a couple episodes earlier than this particular one where we talk about autism in depth, and I talk a little bit about mine. We had you know, Ellen, who is a an autistic mo mom, so her children she has children that are autistic, and we're going to continue that conversation today with our guest who's going to share about his autism and about others, not everybody, but there's more than there should be people that say that, we use certain things as a crutch. Like I use my depression as a crutch. I use my anxiety. I use my ADHD. I use all the things that I come with. I use them as crutches. And our guest is going to share that as well. He's going to share his experience, just being autistic, what that means to him, and how that impacts him, uh, or doesn't, because uh, autistic people are still human beings, and we should all be treated with, kindness, gentleness, respect. And then he's going to share about some of the unfortunate comments that other people, I don't know if we're going to name names or anything, but just more in general of that people do, unfortunately, look at that, look at autism as we're using a crutch. Like, well, we'll use it when it's convenient. So let's hop in. David Solomon's with us. Thanks for joining us on the show. And now we're gonna get into autism and how that impacts you, and how unfortunately there's some individuals that are just, they can't be pleased.
hmm I I agree with what you said, and thank you for just having me on and talking about this. Um, special needs and autism is really big. My mom, as you know, ran a ranch for special needs kids, and did so very successfully. Special needs has been really big on my heart because I grew up with that surrounding me. And some of my greatest friends have special needs. Most people in the entertainment world that create have some sort of autism or on the spectrum. You know, ever since a kid, I was made fun of for being different because I would act out everything that I wrote, or I would draw at an incredible speed. Um, and people just made fun of me because I would just be different, play the piano, and I could play a song that I hear on the radio in every key, um, in every octave. Um, and people would just make fun of that. And I think now, of course, there's autism awareness, and that's great. But there should have been that back then because we had so much bullying back in my day. And that wasn't so long ago
Mhm.
either. You know, I get crucified for um, for being the CEO of mythical creatures around the world, even to this day, because my wife handles emails and she handles different things because of my autism. Um, I see the world a little differently, and I write and I communicate. I'm always on the phone. If anyone ever knows me, I'm always on the phone. I'm always talking. I like to talk to people. I don't like to message people on email and say how are you. I will if I have to, but chances are I'll mess the email up because of my dyslexia, which comes with that autism. I'll say that it's been a challenge to be a writer and have dyslexia and autism at the same time. And if it weren't for my mom and Professor Fred, who I want to bring in today, uh, you know, I wouldn't be here. I was, I think I was 10 or 11 when I was, just being a rebel. Um, and Professor Fred, uh, he, Professor Fred Young, he took me under his wing and said, your stories are so great. Why don't you put them to paper? Because I was acting them out, and sure, people were liking them, and some ideas were taken for some projects, mostly art because I was cartooning. But Mr. Fred, he said, "Well, I want you to read." And I wouldn't read. I couldn't read because of my autism. I could write all day long, but I could not read.
Mhm.
um, so I read comic books, and then from comic books, I read a book, Young Jedi Knight, um, Shadow Academy, and I read that, and it changed my life forever because after I read that, I wrote a novel in a day in his office, and he went, "Oh my word." That just happened. And my mom, of course, she made me pancakes and celebrated. And that was the day that I could write at great speed, and people saw that and the power it has and the impact it has. And, uh, and we just really wanted to hone in on that. Um, it was about 12 years old. I graduated high school thanks to Mr. Fred Young. And I went to college and I took one of my courses in Iceland with Dr. Refrich. Uh, Mr. Refrich, uh, who lives in a small town in Iceland, taught me about folklore and mythology. And I took 9 courses to study over 400 languages and memorize their folklore, theology, and mythology. And then, of course, Bible college and all of that. And I put them all together. And at that point, I was also studying bird watching. So when you put all of those together, you have something that grows, and it grows into something very beautiful. Grows into something very beautiful. I think I was about 8 years old or 9 when I created Owlman. Um, and anyway, my professor in Iceland, he saw that and he said, "What folklore does that tie to?" And so that's where I fell in love with folklore. Furthermore, um, after I studied that, I realized that Wayne Thomas Batson, Chris Hopper, other authors were pulling from folklore that I had learned in Iceland. And it was really interesting to see all these authors, Donita K. Paul, Brian Davis, pulled from folklore that was already there. It was kind of cool. So I utilized my disability and made it a ability to do things at a different speed than others, but also do things differently than others could actually get done. Um, to this day, my autism really shows because little tasks I struggle with, I have to have them written down, and you can drive your family nuts that way, or you can drive yourself nuts that way. I was on my phone last night tinkering with my son's project that he's doing, and I drove myself nuts because I was supposed to be writing a letter, and I forgot to tell myself that I was supposed to continue writing the letter, and I was doing my son's project, and I got my son's project done, but I didn't get the letter done. So then I had to go back and do the letter, and then I forgot to do my son's project part two. So I was up till about 1 o'clock last night, just hitting hard on reminding myself what to do. Now, the other thing with autism that I do is I can never work on one project at a time. There always has to be two or three, and I'm going to tell you why. Um, let's see. '07 and '08, I was writing TV shows, and I would get bored after Anakin and Ahsoka are chasing the bad guy, and I would go, huh, yeah, I want to do something else now. I'm burnt out. So one day would be Star Wars, and the next day would be Smallville, and the next day would be Incredible Hulk, and then we would go back. And at that point, Iron Man Armored Adventures. And so there would be a rotation, and it worked because I would always come back with a fresh mind, and it would always get done. And I should practice what I preach. So when I write novels, I get bored because then it's like, oh my gosh, I am so stuck. So, like this one story that you guys are going to read, it's phenomenal. It's some of my best writing. I fell in love with the story. It's set in Long Beach, California, which I had the honor of going to a long time ago with my mom. Great place, good people, great culture. But I sat on the information for 12 years. This is one of those folklores that you really just don't know how to use, so you let it percolate for 12 years. And finally, it's a masterpiece. It's sitting at 150 pages in a script. Well, folks, that's a 2 hour pilot. And so I have to trim that down. And it's so good. It's great. It's getting back to my golden age, I call of writing. And I love that. And we're doing a tour, as everyone knows, um, Voices for Voices Publishing Tour 2026 to 2027 and even 2028. Um, and I want to also announce that we're also going to be opening up a physical bookstore in the future. Uh, and I got confirmation of that today. And we don't know the location of that, but we will in the future so that we can have these great stories accessible to people around the world that want this content. Um, I've been really struggling uh, as someone with autism of, you know, I have 402. I want you guys to think about this 421 books ready to go that I have written over a 25-year span. And that's just that. That's not including from ages 5 to 9, which is at least another 400. But those aren't full books, those are scripts. And recorded acting out sessions. So when you look at that, you go, huh, what do I do? And when I was a boy, at 10, I wanted to work in VeggieTales, so I made all of the prophets from the Bible come to life in VeggieTales. My mom made me post it on our AC unit. We had tarp around it, and I posted all these pictures of the VeggieTales prophets. I worked in VeggieTales after that, and now you look at what we're doing, and it's really no different. Nothing really has changed. It's a little bit, but not really. It's mythical creatures instead of VeggieTales. That's the only difference. So I'm just really happy to be where I'm at because special needs to be talked about, and people take advantage of people with special needs. I was taken because of my autism and taken advantage of to this day. So with awareness, someone Stephen Reimers uh, said that I use autism as a crutch, and I don't. It's my strength. And also, when you have autism, you really can't lie. Um, it's really hard to. And because of my moral compass and the autism, you put that together, and it becomes a mess for someone that tries to call you a liar. And I've learned a lot of people take advantage because you try to see the good in people when there aren't any. And that's important. So, in running mythical creatures around the world, um, honestly, yeah, I've had some hate, but I push through it. I get up every day, do the post and the art and the story, and it keeps you going. And writing a novel or a screenplay, or maybe the baby's having a hard day, or, you know, mythical has always been there since day one. I remember when I was paralyzed and blind, I was told I was never going to see again. And the doctor said, you know, what are you going to do? And so my mom would read me the stories. And over time, the stories would mutate into what they are now. And it's incredible. And so I'm honored and privileged to have those stories to share with the world. Um, it's
Do and this is your call,
yeah,
just something that came to my mind. A lot of people, unfortunately, we've learned over the last some months, uh,
yeah,
some period of time, that they, I guess they, what's the right word? They they take your content.
yeah,
They don't ask you for it. They use it in a book. They
yeah,
make
yeah.
money off of it.
Plagiarism,
You,
yeah,
as the original author, how do you handle that? Because that could be
yeah,
debilitating to somebody. And
yeah. I mean, I got used to it with my mom. Um, the movie Bright, I'm gonna name for the first time. Um, you know, one could argue onward. Uh, I'm, I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna say that people took advantage of my concepts and stories. Um, and my mom tried to go after him for it, and sometimes it's successful, and sometimes it's not. Um, You know, Mr. Mr. Davis, others. There was one in particular. There was a Oregon story on the coast in 17, and we were gonna do it, and then someone shut it down and shot it themselves. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Mm.
Um,
And Mythical also uh, isn't a new concept. It actually, and again, if you want to get into it, you can. You
yeah,
don't have to.
yeah,
But
no,
I just wanted to, bring up to people's attention um, that, in 1939, that, mythical creatures around the world didn't start in 2017 or 2002.
no,
Basically, when you get down to the nuts and bolts of the organization, it actually started in 1939.
yeah, yeah. 19, well, 1930. Well,
Around there.
yeah, yeah, because yeah, yeah. Um, great grandfather, Blickenstaff
Yeah.
started it, and I won't get into all the details, but
Mm.
people's families knew the Tokens and the Lewises, and it's kind of interesting when you read my mom's letters and then my great grandfather's letters. Um, they kind of tell a story of how everybody knew each other, and it's kind of neat, you know.
Yes, I mean you're literally taking the torch
Yeah,
from all those years and just continuing that, and then having a child to really uh, come out with some of his own work.
yep,
um, that's gotta feel good too, because right, if and I'm on the spectrum too. I'm a little bit, obviously we're different people, obviously, and
yeah,
unique characteristics and that. And so certain things I'm able to do and certain things just bother me. And again, you just power through it. And for those that are watching and listening, you got to just find what works for you, because what works for David, what works for me, David, gets up and he first thing on the mind is, mythical creatures around the world. Getting up posts, working on art. For me, it's voices for voices, but I mean, and then all that kind of just it all evolves together. So if you're watching and listening, going, "Oh my gosh, I don't I'm not a CEO of an organization. It must be easy to talk about, and because of that." Well, it's actually not. It's hard to do it because as you mentioned, to keep our minds on like one or two things. Uh, and cycle back and forth, because to work on one thing, I'm a little bit more to the focusing on the one thing, and you have a couple of different things that you're rotating through, and
yeah,
it's okay. And I think that's a big message, a big takeaway from the show is it's okay. Like, you don't have to be like me, don't have to be like David, anybody others in your family or schools. The key is that you believe in yourself. And as corny as that sounds, and I know growing up, hearing people say that, like, oh, you're special, and that, um We are. But we all are special. It's not just some of us. We all are. Some of us have been diagnosed, some haven't. Some are doing certain things, some are doing homeopathic and you just got to find what works for you. And I think
Yeah,
that and that doesn't happen overnight.
I like how you said that. Yeah, and um, it's really been a journey with like uh, juggling mythical and what it means now. There's so much demand on it now, um, of what we're doing, and it's never been done. And I'm constantly on the phone setting things up and talking to people, and
Mhm.
it's a lot of hard work, guys. It's a lot of hard work. Um,
If you didn't love what you were doing, you wouldn't do it. Like, I
that's
mean,
right. Yeah, it's my passion. It's my baby, and just like my children, Mythical has been there, and you know, my mom held on to it. But yeah, it was created originally. The idea in the story universe was kind of created by Grandpa Blickenstaff, and then Mom's mom kind of skipped that, and so the Blickenstaffs raised Mom, and uh, and then Ralph and Muriel, the other uh, relatives, raised Mom, and then they told their stories. I remember Ralph sitting in his home. He would talk about the old bombers and what they used to see, and there would be all these World War II stories, and even World War I stories, by the way.
mm.
Um, and so it's just a privilege to utilize that. Um, and when you're going back in history, some of these folklores took place in 1908, and it's like, whoa, well, we're
Right.
bringing them to now, and that's kind of cool too. Um, but yeah, it started with Blickenstaff, and then Mom took it over, and Mom told a lot of stories. I remember Troutdale, Virginia. That's when she really introduced me to her idea. We were in hyperbaric after her dad uh, blew our house up, and we were in the Troutdale Pond in a boat because we were on break from treatment. I had just gotten done throwing up,
Mm,
and uh, we got stranded in the middle of the pond, and there was this creature like a Loch Ness that kept rocking the boat. We were stranded up out there like 12 to 13 hours.
mm,
No water, no nothing. And we made up a story about the monster. Truth be told, there's a native legend that Mom found that day. But then we got to the ledge over the pond, and Mom said, "Oh, you know what? We should write this." And so, sure enough, Mom made a book, and I'm going to republish that book. And then in Dallas, when we came back, when we flew back, she did a Dallas story as well. And then um, let's see, 6 years old, we did the missing puppy. 7, it was the super puppies, and then 8, it was San Francisco and the ocean, and then 9, uh, it was let's see, oh, let me think here. It was Santa Rosa and Chico stories, and then 11, it started pushing. I remember doing the this is going to sound weird to everybody, but the show Arrow. Well, I was 11 when I created the concept. Now, the original concept was Oliver Queen. I was sitting in the Medford Barnes and Noble, and Josh and Adam were there, and Tish and John. And I asked them, what is the latest Green Arrow? And so they, pointed me to it. And my professor was there because he was trying to get me to read because I would write, but I wouldn't read.
Yeah.
And it was very unusual. And so, again, I was doing calculus. I wouldn't do addition or subtraction. It's an autism thing. I got bored. And so, anyway, I started reading the Green Arrow comic, and he goes, so he likes reading, but he only reads comics. Okay, this. So he took me to a comic store, More Fun Comics in Ashland, and I met Scott and Andre. And Scott goes, "Well, yeah, we got Green Arrow." So I started reading Green Arrow. Within a day, I wrote an outline for a Green Arrow movie about Green Arrow's son, and now Green Arrow's enemy, the guy with the swirly, not bullseye, but Vertigo. Thank you, Count Vertigo, goes after his son, and they have to rescue his son, and Black Canary gets killed, and Green Arrow swears when it was a whole thing. And so it's about 80 pages of a movie. And my professor looks at me and goes, son, you got the gift. So then I started writing Smallville and Supergirl and all these things. And I submitted Arrow to DC Comics that year. Now, you guys didn't see the concept come to life until like a long time after. And that's when I knew what I wanted to do. And I would create Batman stories. And um, there was a Wonder Woman in there. Um, but it was always that superhero. And every year I would make my own birthday cake and I would draw characters from the Bible or Star Wars or something that made a difference in my life, or maybe I was writing or drawing that year. But I would always have the Bible on my cake. Well, when I started writing Star Wars, I had Star Wars on one cake and the Bible on the other and Smallville on the other. So, uh, Mythical really played a role in my life because these characters have been there for so darn long. Um, when we left Klamath in 13, I remember going to Reading with mom on the Spiral Bridge, and we came up with the character Bubbles and Finn. I actually found the old writing of it, and I'm going to republish it for the school there. Beautiful story. And so people look at me and they go, you can't be as big as Star Wars. Star Wars has had 50 years. Well, if you take the stories out that I've written, which is probably like 8 or 9,000 now, to be exact, on paper, like 800, but shows acting at probably 9,000. If you take that out, you put my mom's in, that's about 1,000, and then Grandpa Blickenstaff's, that's about 2,000. Well, let's see. That's longer than Star Wars now, right? So you got to take that into consideration. Um, and then the way I'm doing our myths going forward for the tour is we're going to have what I call a phase. There's a phase one, a phase two, and a phase three. Phase one is you have your teen heroes for high schoolers, your kid heroes for kids that Ryan's helping with, and then you're going to have your your characters in college, and then your Hallmark, your romance. And then last night, after a great conversation with someone involved in the Clayface movie, which I also had a part to play in, we are going to do the first Christian horror book, which I had no idea was going to be a thing. But we had a lovely conversation, and I don't like horror, but there is a need for it. And there is a time and a place to scare someone. Well, this is that time. This is that time. So we are going to do a thriller set in Oregon. I already have the details. I talked it over with the person. Um, I'm a little against it at first, and then I learned the folklore, and then I was like, oh man, this can't not be a horror. Um, Guys, you have mosquitoes in a haunted forest that disappear and then reappear, and they attack you, and they're giant. Man, that's kind of cool. You have a piranha-like humanoid when you go to the beach, try to attack you, and then hunt you down. That's kind of cool. Um, and guys, being a folklorist, I have access to like different people come to me every day with folklore. You wouldn't believe. Some of them are crazy, I'm not going to lie. But that's what makes good folklore. Folklore is a parable, and Jesus told parables all the time. And so if we tell morals in our parables, then we've done our job. Now, there are going to be some more steamy novels, but just because they're steamy, and let me make that clear, doesn't mean they need to be spicy. It just means they're a little more um, romantic, right? They're for that audience. But there's a time and a place for that to happen. And we need to be good judges and stewards of when that happens. We're looking at that in real time with novels today. So we'll be doing those books, and those will be for adults because there are moments with a husband and a wife that will be talked about. You don't have to show everything, but they'll be talked about. And that's important because you can't tell a story without it. And the Christian community has gotten used to that, and we're in an age where that's just not going to work. You have people that hate God because we don't talk about these things, and we have to talk about them. So it's going to be really powerful, the characters that we have in our stories, and they're going to matter. Um, One of the characters that my son likes is Sadie from Young Siren Born, not Young Justice. Young Justice is what we're trying to do. Pay no attention. So, Young Siren Born, it targets that age, and he really likes the characters, and so we're going to be doing a big crossover called the Beast Wars. We're working on that today. So it's kind of a non-stop creating process where you can't turn your brain off if you tried. And it's also annoying because, like, at 1 o'clock in the morning, when you're in the bed, you have to open your phone up. You have to go into the notes, and then you have to write yourself a note because you're blind in one eye and you can't see on paper. And you have to write the note, hey, by the way, or dictate it in this case, by the way, um, I thought of this folklore and I need to research that. And I researched that. Let me reach out to that person. I'm going to call this person. Hey, Trish, I know you heard a folklore sighting in this town. Did you hear anything about that town? Oh, I don't know. Let me call you back. Oh, okay. You know, it's a lot of love, a lot of passion, and I'm so excited to share it with you guys. But Voices for Voices Publishing, we're doing something never done before. We are having a tour coming up. It's going to be nationwide and international. Um, we're not doing this alone. We're going to have other writers, other professionals in the industry, um, and we'll be getting back to you on those tentative dates. But so excited to be a part of this moment. Um, and a part of the tour is to give these small towns a voice, but also as a ministry to create an alternative to what kids are reading with all this nastiness of sex, which is spice code word in books, and language and vulgar, and bring morals back to publishing. So Voices for Voices is a Christian, as far as I'm concerned, fantasy publisher, and it will stay that way for now. Um, and we're happy to do it, and that's kind of my journey uh, into being autistic and being made fun of and being a CEO.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, it's a roller coaster day to day, minute
Oh
to
yeah,
minute. And
definitely.
some someone might say, you're talking about, oh, I've written this many, and hey, that the stuff's true. And if someone doesn't want to believe it, that's okay. They don't have
Yeah.
to. Uh, but we shouldn't take away from others
No.
what what they've done, what they believe to be. Just like we're not going to tell somebody, well, you shouldn't do this. I mean, we can say, yeah, like this type of activity is not good.
Yeah.
We're not going to do it, but it's up to that person or that organization to actually make the call and stop, modify, pivot, whatever we want to say. And I think there's room in the world for uh, people who are like us and 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 not. We're providing an alternative to people who have not had an option in I don't know how many years. You would know that. I mean, and that should be allowed. When Coca-Cola is on the shelves at a grocery store, there's Pepsi there, there's Mountain Dew, there's Dr. Pepper, there are these options. And so if somebody doesn't like what we're doing, that's fine. Do your thing and live with what potential consequences may arise from that. Um, and and that's okay. Somebody goes, if they drink soda and they say, "Oh, today I'm thirsty for Coke." And then the next day they say, "Oh, but I really could use a Pepsi." Well, if there weren't the options there, then it would be a monopoly, and there would only be one option. And that's what's happening right now is there's only the one option. People don't have the option to look like side by side and say, "Oh, I didn't even realize there was a second an alternative to what has been published and what entertainment on top of that." And I think that's a big takeaway for our viewers and our listeners is we're providing that alternative. It's uh, at the end of the day, it's up to the consumer to decide what what they want. And we don't control the world. We're regular, everyday people trying to make a living, trying to help others at the core. And with that comes autism with the two of us. And maybe it comes with a viewer or listener. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe somebody's a parent. Maybe somebody's an uncle, an aunt. They don't even realize it. And they write off the person. They're like, oh, that person has autism. So, they can't. They can't be a writer, they can't, play a sport, or they can't, sing songs. Um, and that's what we're trying to do, is just break that mold. Uh, and that is why I feel, and I know you do, David, with the work that you were doing before we even met. You're as big a believer in the work that you've done as I am with voices. So it is a natural crossover where we're able to do things that we love to do, and it all comes back, whether it's a myth, folklore, whether it is somebody telling their story. It all comes back to helping people. That's what we want to do. We're not going to live forever. Nobody is. And that's the big takeaway I think, or I take away, and why I get up each day. And some days we do shows, some days we don't. Some days we'll spend more time on social media. Um, and also, none of us on this earth are perfect, are sinless. And some people may feel that they are. Now, I can't stop that, but all I know is humans, we were born from and with sin, no matter what, whether somebody's a believer or not. There's nobody that's perfect. Maybe we do some task or some projects that may come out that look perfect, that sound perfect. I get a perfect score in my folklore class, or I get 80 points out of 100 in my calculus class. And so that's different from I'm a perfect person and that I can judge others. And I'll say this, like I've said before, and I'll say it again, that nobody's perfect, and we don't spend our time hung up on other people, other things. Um, and when there's truth, there are two options. You're either part of the solution if there's a problem, or you're continuing to be part of the problem. Like, if you don't want to help, if you see somebody in need, somebody that passes out in a group of people and they're just standing there and nobody's calling for the paramedics, and you're just walking by because you don't want to be in. Here comes Lucy. Yeah. And you don't want to be involved, and you don't want to, like, oh, well, I don't want to be called as a witness, and I don't want to have to, I don't want to be involved. And yeah, I don't agree with this activity. Well, that's what it comes down to. And so, whether mythical creatures, whether voices for voices, we are the people that are standing up. And we do get, whether it's autism or even not autism, we get a lot of flack because we are standing up and we are sharing our stories, whatever they may be. And I think that should be inspiration and a light for somebody who has always wanted to do something, and they've just said, you know what, somebody called me dumb, somebody called me stupid or retarded, or whatever these, just awful words that are coming out of people's mouths. And we're here to say, you can do it. You can dream. You can do your dream. It may take some time. Not everything happens overnight. In fact, anything that's worth it doesn't happen overnight. And And I'll go back to an earlier episode that you've watched and seen where I talk about Thomas Edison, right? He discovered, invented, or whatever the term you want to use, the technology and that for electricity, the light bulb. And it took him somewhere around 10,000 tries. And so if David and I and you are watching and your friends and others, that's my dog. She's got a cone on, so that's what that scratching is. She can't. So I know pe some people, and I had some technical difficulties with my camera, and I have allergies. So it's been a whirlwind. But you can do it. You you can. Don't listen to somebody who what they really want is you just not to succeed. That's what I've found. That people, this word jealous, comes to mind where people they get jealous. They're like, well, there's no way you wrote 400 books and all these screenplays, and there's no way that Justin, you did this, and uh, you're this huge organization, and you say that you're small, and it's like, all right, well, come take a look. Let's see how many employees we have. See who's doing the work, and you're really looking at them right now. You're looking at David, and you're looking at me. I mean, and not to but we also need to include David's wife and children. Uh, and and so just because we have big dreams and we want to help a lot of people, and you hear me throwing around this 3 billion, we want to reach and help 3 billion people over the course of my lifetime and beyond. Just because it's my dream, I don't know that it's going to happen, but go do your dream for the naysayers out there. And for those that are looking for us, maybe everything's gone wrong the last month or the last few days, and relationships ended, and you don't know how you're going to go on. Just as easy as it sounds, like easy for you to say, well, it's not easy because I'm dealing with my mental challenges and things every single day. So no, it's not easy for me to say. All I'm saying is, hey, you can talk to somebody. You should be able to. And if you can't, there's a flaw in the system. We have people all over the world that tune in to our show. Mythical creatures around the world. It's named that because it connects people all around the world. And and so it's okay to dream. I was watching. I'll close it out by with this. I was watching as I like to do from time to time. Concerts. Now with different electronics and software, we're able to. If we're at a concert, we can record the show uh, and so one of the bands that right now, I remember growing up, and I did an episode on it, so you'll have to check it out. And 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 so they've gotten to be more popular now than what they were when back in the heyday when they came out as a band. But what their lead singer said on stage, it really resonates with me, is talking about being a dreamer. And I'm not talking about the political dreamer type of language. I'm talking about just a person that has a dream and says, you know what? I want to be an astronaut. Well, that was me growing up. Well, this band, they wrote a song and said, "Is anybody out there, had a dream?" And there's people cheering and that, and say, and they people look at you and say, you got, you're crazy because you got this idea or ideas that's so out there that they're never gonna happen. And there, he gives a gesture, which I don't recommend. But what he says is, so we wrote a song about it, and it's a song called Iconic. And I'd say two of the most overused words of dialogue that we have as humans, at least in my opinion, is epic and iconic. Like everything's epic, man, and everything is iconic. Those used to be reserved for truly special times and special things. Now, I went to school, man. We're gonna have an epic weekend because today's Friday. Uh, Yeah, yeah, you might have, you should. We all should be able to have fun and safe and prosperous, whatever that is to us. But it doesn't mean that every weekend is going to be epic. Like what, how do we judge that? So that's my spiel for for this. I want to make sure that the people that are dreaming that have and I've also mentioned, Dan Reynolds with Imagine Dragons that David has just a little bit of communication and ties with, but we won't get into that because of NDAs. But their lead singer Dan Reynolds, he was talking about uh, how he goes to therapy. He's like, man, I've been to therapy. I don't know how many years, and he's like, life is worth living. As bad as it seems, that life is always worth living. And I'll tell you, as a teenager and a 20 something, there were many times where and I usually don't share this publicly, but I didn't feel like I was gonna make it to the age 40. I was like, well, what's there gonna be to do when I'm 40? Like, I'm gonna have gray hair. I'm gonna have, all these additional, health problems potentially, and so that was forged in my mind by nobody other than me. Nobody told me that, uh, and so somehow, some way, bringing it back to today, to our episode, talking about autism, talking about being a dreamer of talking to people, to communicate with people. David's more of he likes to talk to them. I'm more of the behind the keyboard. I'm more, and my psychiatrist says I'm an introvert. I mean, you wouldn't know it by our shows and such because I sometimes have a trouble stop talking like now. But it's because there's so many things that life, like we don't get to take things with us when we leave this earth. And so I want to leave every single moment that I can, whether one person watches or listens or a million or 10 million watch or listen. I just want to make sure that I leave it all out on the table. And I know David's the same way with Mythical and not wanting to burn daylight. I mean, just like we got to get things done. We gotta. There's so many aspects. There's scheduling and there's all these things that they're boring. But they got to be done. You can't have a tour if you don't schedule, and if you don't, who you're going to schedule with, you got to find who you're going to schedule with. And so it's this long continuum that a lot of people just look at and say, "Oh, well, they did this in their tour and this one stop, and they did this, and and think that like, oh yeah, we just showed up, and then these things, whatever they may be, whatever may come, and and it's not that. There's a lot of in these." as we're getting closer and closer to 500 episodes, I've had a TV studio ripped under my hands. And so that actually has turned into a blessing because I was limited in the amount of shows I could do at that TV studio. Maybe that comes back, maybe it doesn't. But what technology, I'm trying to utilize it in a positive way, saying, you know what? Like, go ahead, take the studio. I don't care. We're still having the show. We're still having guests. Yes, there's going to be solo episodes. But there's also going to be guests that are going to come and bring their their stories and their experiences, and that's how we're going to continue to reach more people. And what David's talking about with mythical creatures being formed so long ago, and him carrying the torch, and him sharing those myths and the folklore and the art with the world. It's a true blessing, whether you like it or not. I mean, and the last thing I'll say is if you don't like the content we put out, then turn the channel. Um, we think that our content is good. We think it is clean. Yeah, there's going to be occasional episodes where, I may use expletives. I don't like using expletives, but sometimes I do. That's where I'm talking about. We all have faults. And so, uh, continue doing what you're doing. Uh, if somebody you'll find out who your real friends, your real people that are behind you when you have next to nothing, whether that's no income, no job, no nothing, but people are still hanging with you. That's how you're going to know who you're going to want to ride with when the times get to be good. Because when the times get to be good, as some people have found out the hard way in all industries, that it's easy to jump on the bandwagon when a baseball team or a football team's winning all their games, and it's all looking easy, or every competition we enter we win, uh, or whatever that may be. But just know that there are people that are behind you that you might not know, but just remember, believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself and what you're doing, then how are you going to sell somebody else on that? Because eventually, right, if we're dreaming, one day we're going to have to sell ourselves to somebody, sell the brand, sell the story, sell the script. I mean, we're going to have to convince and persuade individuals. So we have to be able to believe in ourselves. And as hard as that may be, and as coming from somebody who spent voluntarily 5 days in a psychiatric wing of the hospital, it was my lowest point and it was my highest. It was the lowest because I had to I had to give up who I was. I couldn't drink anymore, um, and I had to basically be another person. And so some people are like, all right, well, Justin's not partying anymore, and so like we don't have the use for him, and so I had to learn how to live again. And now, whether one person watches or listens or a million, whether one person shows up on tour or whether thousands do, I mean, it's out of our hands. All we do the best we can. And I just want to thank David um for so much, but I mean really believe in it in me, because we've known each other probably I think going on a couple of years, and there's been so many ups and downs, no matter what, and for him to stick by. Uh, Stick by me, stick by the organization, want to collaborate and do the things that, God willing, we're going to have an opportunity to do. Uh, I know that uh, I have somebody that's in my corner, and there may be others, but there's a whole lot of people who I thought were in my corner, that I had to find out kind of the hard way that, you know they don't want my dream. They thought the dream was just getting too outrageous, um, and like I said, we all of us are going to leave this earth one way or another, and uh, I'm gonna leave it all on the table. David's gonna leave it on the table, and we're gonna give you everything we've got. Anything, lastly, to add, David? I know I just went on like a 20-minute rant.
No, no, I think you're good.
Okay.
I wanted to, someone just messaged me, uh, so I'll end it with this. This is what I get in my TikTok, and I had to put it on the big screen to read it because of my eye.
Yeah.
So, um, I saw something in Florida when I was on vacation. It was very strange, and it was on the beach. Particularly, it was blue and gray and was humanoid, but had fins on its back. And it was in the shallow waters. The detailing of it was my dad also saw it too. My dad is a Coast Guard. And then it goes into detail about the location, which I will protect them for
Hmm.
sake. And I just got this. This is what I get, um, for being mythical is people, like I'm looking at Lake Wisconsin, and people message me all the time about myths and folklore and legends and, recreate recreational. There was a balloon that hovered over the water, and then this creature was seen on the beach and attacked me and my friend while we were fishing in a lake in a cove by a creek. I was catching trout. Quickly, there was a creature that took the trout from me. Apparently, it was 12 inches. It just goes into this detail, um, of these creatures. Um, Here's one. I was a sailor and submarine person. Creepy, creepy. Being inside a steel tube, hundreds of. When the sonar system crashes, blink what's going on around you. If you take the creepiness to a new level, we saw something in the window, and then it goes into detail. A few years back, my boat was hit by a rogue wave, and almost everyone on board was lost at sea, including one of my best friends. It was messed up pretty good. I was Fast forward, I was sometime you're sitting on a bluff looking out in the Pacific Ocean in general accident of where it occurred. And it was then that I flashed back that I had just launched into how there was a body below on the beach that saved me and pulled me out. The person that pulled me out was not human. And then it goes into detail about what they are. And so, like, I'm just seeing these, two cavemen looking at me. It, People, here's one more.
Hmm.
Here's one more. Um, it is, I am dive certified. Me and my friend were going diving, and this is in Maine, and we were diving underwater. Just before I saw a small childlike face underwater, I started freaking out because the child's face started getting closer and closer, and pretty soon everything around me turned to black.
Mm.
Turned to black, right? So anyway, this is like really and then World War II. Um on reefs can be known as if they're underwater. Anyway, my point, guys, is this is what I do. People message me. Um, he reaches a doorway. Okay, this is really cool. I'll end it with this. Sorry, Justin. This is really cool.
No, do it. Go ahead.
So this was submitted to me today. My grandfather was in the Navy, World War II, in the Pacific. He occasionally, when in a forthcoming mood, would tell a story of how they were getting attacked, and he was trying to get to the other side of the boat. He reaches a doorway to the deck and opens it, and just as he is about to step out, he hears someone shout his name behind him. He stops, being to turn around, and an explosion goes off just outside the door. He looks behind him to thank whoever called his name, but no one was there. That shook more than the bombs. They say that it was a siren. To make matters worse, the oddest thing that my dad caught looked like a snake head, but then it wasn't. It was something much more unique. So, like, I'm just seeing these.
Mm.
Um, this is another one in San Diego. Uh, one had two people on it, both clearly had shot a bunch of times, and one was moving fairly alive. There's people that see things that boggle the mind and they can't explain it. And that's where I come in. Like, now, I am mythical creatures around the world, but I will say that I got my degree in Iceland to study folklore of the ocean.
Mhm.
And that's why you will always see it. We'll end with this. I will end with it. Since
Mhm.
we have Oregon, off the coast of Newport, my first or second open water dive. We were diving the reef. We were deep enough the surface wasn't immediately viciously obvious. Following the bubbles, you'll get there maybe 40 or 50 feet down. I hadn't realized the reef when it would just drop to hundreds of feet. I was kicking along. It was amazing. And then something happened. Something under me happened. As a native Oregon, I don't know what happened, but everything turned black.
Mm.
Somebody pulled me down, and then it keeps going. It talks about the Navy. Anyway, this is what I do, guys.
Mhm.
This is what I specialize in, and there's a lot. There's a lot of folklore out there. So, what I can encourage you is, with my autism, if I can do this, anybody can do this. Okay.
Absolutely.
You can do this. Um, and I'm going to post this today on Mythical. There's a charter boat company that reached out. in Southern California while taking a group out on a dead humpback whale floating in the harbor. The thing was huge and there were birds everywhere picking at it. Jet skiers were riding up to it and touching it, and some were even trying to climb it. Found out later that there were giant adult great white sharks under the whale. Another time inshore, there were more sharks, but not human. Can you please post this on mythical creatures around the world? I would love to get in touch with you and be on your podcast. So, this is what we do.
Hmm.
So, guys, you're hearing this in real time. And I wanted you guys to be a part of that
Hmm.
because this is what we do. Justin, literally, this is no joke. I get these, Port Arthur. Um, this is what we do. I get all these crazy stories, and they are crazy. And then people will go, oh, you know, yeah. So, thank you so much for listening
Hmm.
and for just being here and a part of this moment. Um, it means the world. Listen to what we got. Um, don't let autism, you know, be the thing that holds you back because I'm living proof it doesn't hold you back. Okay. It just doesn't. And, you can be what you want to be and you can do what you want if you set your mind to it. And people with disabilities, we're very smart. We're very smart. Justin, anything to add?
No, I just echo all that. It's very true. Uh, there might not be a straight line to exactly what you want to do. There might be some hurdles and some certificates or education, or maybe you can learn some things on your own. Uh, but I think the last thing I want to say is, uh, as a person who is an instructor at a university, you don't have to go to college. You don't have to go to university. You can if you want, but there's people in need so bad, not only here in the United States, I'm guessing, but probably uh, other parts of the world. Uh, the temperature gets either too hot or too cold, and if you have air conditioning or you have heat or uh, electricity goes out for 6, 7 days, what do you do? So people are in need of people that, and I know from firsthand experience, last 2 summers, some of the hottest days of the year, and our air conditioner just decided to stop working. Luckily, we didn't have to get a brand new one, and it ended up being, compared to a brand new one, relatively inexpensive. Uh, but if we didn't have anybody to call, we literally would have just roasted, and we did, because this individual, uh, he was servicing literally our whole neighborhood. I was going through something like this, uh, and so yeah, some things. I mean, hey, like I said, not only me being an instructor, but I have an undergrad in marketing management. I have an MBA in management, and have taught college over 10 years, college students, undergrad, master's level, in person, uh, virtual, online. Um, I've created courses. And so I'm saying this as a human being that maybe you want to, but don't go to school just because family tells you or somebody tells you that you need to do it. they're, really think through your decisions. I'm not telling you not to go, but I think you can make, I'm not, it's not even, I know you can make a lot of money going to the trades or going to a 2 year school, and make just as much or more than some of the jobs that people come out of colleges and universities and they can't even find work in their own field. So make sure that you're the one that's making the decisions. I can't stress that enough. Um, because of a friend or a cousin or family members,
Yeah.
make sure that you're the one that's making whatever the decision is. That if you're able to make the decision and all things being equal, right? If if you have the money to do it, or you're able to take out loans, uh, just you make the decision because at the end of the day, uh, do you want to go work uh, with a roommate because a roommate said, "Hey, I think you should take this major," or a cousin or somebody that you meet out at a concert, just because you turn into good friends? No, because at the end of the day, I've been there, done that. I've been a manager. I've been a non-manager. I've hired people, and at the end of the day, people are just people. So when the big bosses are telling you you need to fire a couple people on your staff, well, it don't matter how many happy hours you went to with them. It don't matter how many conferences you went to with them. They're going to be looking out for their number one, their self. And so please, please look out for yourself. And again, the people that are riding with you when you're going through a rough patch, those are going to be the people that you're going to want to have in your circle. So thank you, David, for spending so much time with us. And we, obviously look forward to continuing the collaboration, and reaching people and
Yeah.
sharing, like you said, in real time what we do, what we do.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for watching and listening. Let everybody know. Please follow us on our social media. Uh, Instagram and Facebook are usually the areas that we would recommend you. Mythical creatures around the world, especially on Facebook. If you don't have Facebook, get Facebook and follow mythical creatures around the world. I can't say anything more than that. You've got to see the art. You have to see or have somebody play or use sign language, the uh, the folklore that has come before and that will be coming uh, today and in future days. So we can't thank you enough. We'll see you on the next episode of the show. Bye bye for now.